Hi, I'm Zared, and occasionally I stream War Thunder. So recently folks have been asking about what kind of ammo to take, so I figured I would make a video about it. Now this will be just a brief overview of what I personally like to take. I want to do something a little bit more in depth, but with 1.43 hitting relatively soon, I'm going to go ahead and wait on that particular project so that the information remains relevant. So, as a general rule for rounds, I tend to look for different things between machine guns and cannons. For machine guns, I like to get as many armor-piercing incendiary rounds as I can get my hands on, and with cannons, I prefer to get as much high explosive as they could possibly pack into that belt. So with that in mind, let's start with America. The 7.62 machine gun unfortunately does not come with the armor-piercing incendiary rounds that I like, but the universal belt does come with armor-piercing and incendiary rounds, so we get a little bit of something at least. Now for the 50 cal, that thing comes loaded with armor-piercing incendiary rounds, which is absolutely fantastic. It sets everybody on fire. For cannons, America's actually a little unusual, as the default belt that costs nothing to reload after every match actually ends up being loaded usually with a very nice mix of armor piercing and high explosive rounds, so it's a pretty good general purpose belt. On to Germany. For the 7.92, universal yet again, a nice mix of armor piercing and incendiary rounds. For the 13mm machine gun, air targets, another mix of armor piercing and incendiary rounds. For the 20mm cannons, both MGFF and MG151 use the air target belt. Lots and lots of high explosive incendiary rounds. For the 30mm cannon, actually all of the belts are good, so you can't really make a bad call. Russia! Russia's weird, in a good way. As long as you don't use the default belt with the 7.62 machine guns, there's not a bad belt in the lot, so yeah. The British. For machine guns and cannons, either universal or stealth. Nice and simple here. Some armor piercing and incendiary rounds with the machine guns, along with some flavors of high explosive in the cannons. And Japan. For the 7.7s, universal or stealth are the belts you want to go with. There's a couple of armor piercing rounds and at least one incendiary round in there. Not great, but it'll get the job done. For the 50 cal, as long as you do not use the default belt, you'll have a nice mix of armor piercing and incendiary flavors. For the 20mm cannons, do not use default or stealth belts, as they contain practice rounds which don't do a whole lot of damage. Otherwise, all of the belts have a nice mix of armor piercing or high explosive that changes depending on which one you choose. Now, 30mm cannons unfortunately only have one belt without practice rounds, and that's the tracer belt. Luckily, it's chock full of high explosive, so you'll be in a good position there. So I hope you found this helpful, and if you've got more questions, please feel free to come by the stream and ask any questions you may have there. Super secret bonus round. With the information provided here, what do you think I use for my belts on Italian planes?